Gooner can be defined as someone who's horny to the point of obsession, where they can't even function without the goon. Now why am I telling you this? I am telling you this because since the dawn of time, man has gooned. Before we discovered fire, we gooned. Before the Greek philosophers created philosophy, we gooned. And before man created the first pyramid scheme, we definitely gooned. Are you seeing the pattern here? For any great discovery to take place, man must first goon. But despite the importance of gooning all throughout history, no one seems to know the great gooners of our time. It's almost as if historians have intentionally distorted history in order to hide the truth from us. But why would they do such a thing? And who would benefit from this? And so I will now be discussing two legendary gooners whose contributions to the gooning community was lost to the public, so that we can finally answer the age-old question of who is the top gooner. Is it William Reich, the goon physicist? William Reich was an Austrian doctor and psychoanalyst who, at the young age of 22, met Sigmund Freud, the man who founded and pioneered the field of psychoanalysis. Reich got to know Freud when he asked him for what books he should read for his sexology seminar. Fast forwarding a bit, Reich would eventually become Freud's favorite pupil and would start to practice psychoanalysis under Freud. Reich would then develop a sexual relationship with one of his first patients, a woman named Laura Kahn. She later died of sepsis after sleeping in a cold room she had rented out as a place for her and Reich to meet up secretly. Though Reich would quickly move on, as 2 months after Laura Kahn's death, Reich began to see her friend, Annie Pink, who coincidentally enough was also a patient of his. They would later divorce in 1933, and she would take both the kids. Rewinding to 1924, Reich would start to earn his title of goon physicist when he would publish a series of papers on orgastic potency, which is the ability to release stored emotional tension in the muscles and completely lose oneself in the orgasm, thus curing themselves of all mental deficiencies. In other words, by gooning hard enough, one can clear themselves of all mental illness. However, to the unlucky who are unable to achieve orgastic potency will suffer from sexual blockage, which is known to cause things such as anxiety, depression, fascism, physical illness, and moral corruption as a result. So please, dear viewer, take care of yourself. If not for yourself, then for me, as I still need your help in order to escape the capitalistic hellhole man has dug for me. So please consider subscribing. In 1939, Reich would then immigrate to New York and would make his greatest discovery yet when he discovered orgone energy, a biological cosmic energy which is essential to one's physical health, mental well-being, and the uninhibited orgasm. Reich would then name the study of his cosmic energy orgonomy. He made this revolutionary discovery when he peered at the night sky through his orgonoscope, a special telescope he himself developed. According to Reich, orgone energy is omnipresent, and its manifestations can be seen all throughout nature, in things such as the northern lights, the color blue that frogs turn when they're horny, and cancer cells. But Reich would truly become the goon physicist when he would invent his greatest creation, the orgone accumulator, an enclosure meant to accumulate and concentrate the cosmic energy of orgone. It was made out of only the most advanced materials, such as plywood, lined with rock wool, and sheet iron. The patients were expected to sit inside of it naked in order to ensure that their bodies can absorb the orgone with no impediment. After testing this device on some plants and mice with cancer, he would come to the shocking discovery that his orgone accumulator was able to destroy cancer. Reich would then share his revolutionary discovery of orgone energy with Albert Einstein. Einstein himself would conduct experiments with a orgone accumulator given to him by Reich. But regrettably, Einstein could not recognize Reich's genius, as he would make up some bullshit claiming that the change in temperature of the accumulator was caused by the temperature gradient in the room and not orgone energy. Reich, rightfully enraged by these lies, sent Albert Einstein a 25-page letter to change his mind. Einstein did not respond. However, this setback would not deter Reich, as he would then go on to discover another form of energy known as deadly orgone energy, which has the terrifying side effects of blocking or even corrupting one's natural flow of orgone energy, which can cause sexual blockage. Deadly orgone energy is also the cause of desertification. Fortunately, to combat this phenomenon, Reich would create a device known as the Cloud Buster. According to Reich, this device could unblock the deadly orgone energy located in the atmosphere and create rain as a result. He named this field of science Cosmic Orgone Engineering. Cosmic Orgone Engineering would be put to the test when two farmers in Maine would hire Reich to create rain in order to save their dying crops. Using the Cloudbuster, Reich was able to successfully clear the deadly orgone energy from the atmosphere. As rain began to fall the very same day, the farmers were satisfied with the results and Reich received his money. But unfortunately for Reich, the US government just had to ruin the fun, as the US government was scared of Reich's genius and jealous of his ability to stack paper like no one else's business. So, in 1954, a federal court ordered a ban on all of his orgone devices and the distribution of any scientific literature on the orgone. However, in 1956, Reich would violate the court order like the rebel he was, and as a result was convicted of contempt of court and was sentenced to 2 years in a federal prison. He then died in that prison just days before he was eligible for parole. And just like that, the Goon physicist was no more, and his life's work was destroyed and buried by the US judicial system. So what do you think? Was William Reich the top Gooner due to his scientific research on the sexual energy of orgone? And if not, then who is the top Gooner? Maybe it's the gooning legend who pioneered a whole genre of gooning for generations to come. And I am of course talking about Count Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, or better known by his modern title, the Goonfather. Born in 1836 in Lemberg, Galicia in the Austrian Empire, Count Masoch grew up in a household of high status and grew up receiving only the best education, like any young aristocrat his age would. He was tutored in things such as classical literature, history, and etiquette, and he was very much expected by his family to grow up to become either a statesman or a scholar, who would be deeply loyal to the Austrian Empire and uphold its moral values. However, despite his family's expectations, life would take a different turn for Count Masoch, as he would develop some strange feelings towards fur, or more specifically, fur worn by a dominant woman. Some Goonstorians theorize that this fascination with dominant women in fur stemmed from his mother. Throughout the 1850s to 1870s, Count Masoch had built up a reputation in the Austrian Empire and beyond as a respected writer/playwright, whose works covered themes such as nationalism, class divide, and anti-authoritarianism, and was considered as a progressive young thinker in the empire. However, it wouldn't be until 1870 where Count Masoch would publish his magnum opus, his Goonifesto of sorts, Venus in the Furs. Venus in the Furs is a novel about an aristocrat named Severin, who becomes enamored with a woman named Wanda von Dunaju. Severin begs Wanda to take him as not a lover, but as a slave. Wanda agrees, but on the condition that he sign a contract of servitude. He agrees, and then renames himself to Gregor, a generic lower-class name at the time, as a way of erasing his status and identity, and rebirth himself as Wanda's slave. One of the things stipulated in the contract by the now Gregor is that Wanda wears fur while abusing him. And while I won't get into the specifics about what they did in the book, just know that she was wearing fur while doing it. The book then ends with Wanda leaving him for another man. Opinions were divisive when this book was published, as some interpreted it as a avant-garde exploration of lust and psychology, while others considered it a morally degenerate piece of media that spouted disturbing things like men actually enjoying being stepped on by a woman. However, in my opinion, the book is neither. As little did the public know at the time, Venus in the Furs was in fact a confession, as Count Masoch had actually been enacting out his book in real life, as Count Masoch had found a mistress of his own to worship in Baroness Fanny Pastor. And it gets even crazier, as just like in the book, he also signs a contract of submission with Baroness Fanny, and he also proceeds to change his name to Gregor. You just can't make this shit up. But what makes this story even funnier is that it ends in pretty much the exact same way as the book, with her leaving him, as their relationship had deteriorated, as apparently enacting out a perverted sex fantasy 24/7 takes its toll on your relationship, as Fanny reportedly just grew bored and lost interest in the act. And while Count Massa tried to find a new mistress to worship, no one could ever take the place of Fanny. And this broke him, as after a breakup, his mental and emotional state would decline with no signs of recovery. But it wasn't until years after the breakup where Count Massa would truly become immortalized as the Goonfather, as in 1886, a notable psychologist by the name of Krafft Ebing would coin the term masochism for a book he wrote titled Psychopathia Sexualis, a medical catalog of sexual perversions. That's right, our dear Count is the Goonfather of masochism. So the next time you post about your desires for a goth dommy mommy to sit on you, ruining all possible chances of employment, just remember the man who helped make that possible. But unfortunately for our Goonfather, things got worse before they got better, as in his final years he was institutionalized, where he then died alone. If I had to make up a moral for this story, it would be that shit just hits the fan when a bad bitch leaves you. Now, it's finally time to answer the age-old question of who is the top Gooner. Is it William Reich, the Goon physicist whose genius allowed him to harness the cosmic energy of Orgone? Or was it Count Massa, the Goonfather who inspired a whole genre of perversion? Comment down below on who you think deserves the title of Top Gooner. Thank you for watching, as by watching this video, you have consented and endorsed my plans of a permanent Rumspringa, which will cover the earth in all manners of worldly pleasure, giving every man, woman, and child the right to sing, dance, and frolic without their bonnets whenever they so choose. So please subscribe, as in the next video we will be predicting the color of the sky.